Hello, this is the 22nd episode of What Would Peter Lynch Do?, where we explore the wisdom of legendary investor Peter Lynch. Today, we're diving deep into a question that I think really hits home for a lot of us. One of our listeners asked, if I had $1 million, would my life turn around?
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it? It really taps into that dream of financial freedom. So for this deep dive, we're going to explore what $1 million really means. Is it the lottery ticket people imagine, or maybe something different?
Absolutely. And our mission here is to unpack how this idea connects not just to, say, investment decisions, but also to, well, broader life wisdom. We've pulled together insights from various sources looking at wealth, time, financial planning, all through that practical sort of grounded wisdom lens. So let's jump right in and maybe bust some myths.
Okay, well, advertisements, a lot of media, they often paint this picture, right? Accumulate millions through stocks, and bam, your life is completely transformed, instant freedom.
Oh yeah, it's so seductive. You see the ads, you picture the beach, no more worries. But okay, let's get real. For an average middle-class person, maybe a couple earning, say, $100,000 combined, starting out, what does $1 million actually mean? Is it instant beach life?
That's where the reality check kicks in, definitely. If buying a house is a goal, well, in many places today, that's easily $500,000 gone, right off the cop.
$500,000, just like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
add a car, maybe some basics for the house. Suddenly, a really big chunk of that million is already spoken for, before you even think about day-to-day living.
right. So you're left with maybe $500,000. Can you just, like, quit your job then? Live off that?
Well, common wisdom and what we're seeing in our sources says pretty clearly, no. You've got hidden costs with that house, property tax, maintenance, utilities. They add up fast. Plus just, living expenses.
Okay, so even if you invest that remaining $500,000 pretty well.
Let's say you get a solid 5% return. That's realistic long-term, maybe with a diversified portfolio, but not guaranteed. That's only $25,000 a year, and that's before taxes.
25,000. Okay, it's a nice boost, definitely welcome, but
But it's just not enough to keep up a middle-class lifestyle on its own, especially with inflation nibbling away at it every year. So the key insight here really is $1 million. It isn't that magic lottery ticket. It won't completely flip your life upside down overnight.
okay. So it's not the finish line. It's more like a powerful booster, like getting a significant permanent raise, maybe, but not quite early retirement on its own. That's a really important shift in thinking.
It absolutely is. And while we're talking about these financial realities, it's really important to touch on something you mentioned earlier, something that often gets glossed over.
What's that?
The simple fact that, well, not everyone starts from the same place financially.
Ah, yeah. That's so true. You look at someone, an acquaintance maybe, living this seemingly easy, luxurious life, and you think, how are they managing that? But like you said, maybe it's not just their choices. Life isn't always fair. People have different starting points.
Exactly. Think about help from parents. A down payment on a house, paying for college, that's a massive head start. If you're not starting out saddled with student debt or struggling to save that first deposit, you just have more breathing room, more money to save or invest right from the beginning.
Or things like pensions, right?
Uh-huh.
If you know you've got a solid guaranteed income waiting for you in retirement, maybe from your job or, a strong social security system, that changes how you plan when you're younger. It's a totally different ballgame.
Absolutely. And then, of course, just plain old initial assets, inheritances, big gifts. Some
Mm.
people just start way ahead. These environmental factors, your background, family support, pension systems, they're mostly outside your personal control.
So acknowledging that is key.
Mhm.
We're not all playing on the same field. The same strategy won't yield the same results for everyone. But that doesn't mean effort is pointless, right?
No, not at all. In fact, it makes it even more important to build the smartest, most efficient financial plan you can, tailored specifically to your situation, your goals. Focus on what you can control.
Okay, that makes sense. Control what you can control. So let's get back to that $1 million. If it's not a lottery ticket, what is it? You mentioned a financial partner.
Exactly, a financial partner. Think about that couple earning 50Ks each, so $100,000 combined. Now imagine their $1 million friend, that invested capital, is reliably kicking in that 5% return we talked about. That's another $50,000 a year.
Ah, okay. So suddenly their household income isn't $100,000. It's $150,000.
Precisely. A 50% jump in income. Now that is significant. That seriously expands your choices, eating out more, pursuing hobbies, just feeling less squeezed, more comfortable day to day. It makes a huge difference to your sense of ease.
Yeah, I can see that. And it opens up bigger life choices too, maybe.
Definitely.
Mm.
It could create options for, say, family happiness. Maybe one partner decides to stay home with young children, reducing stress and potentially increasing family satisfaction overall. Or that extra income stream just keeps compounding, building a more stable foundation for retirement, meaning less worry down the road.
That perspective, it really lines up with books like The Millionaire Next Door, doesn't it? That idea of wealth as a steady supporter, not a quick flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Living below your means, building quietly.
It does. It emphasizes wealth as this consistent power working alongside you. And what's really fascinating here, something our sources really dig into, is how this idea of money goes beyond just stacking up cash. There's this deeper concept. Becoming rich isn't just about the money itself, it's about buying time.
Buying time, I like that.
Yeah.
Our listener actually touched on this, wondering if trading precious time now, maybe time with family, just for more stuff later, if that ultimately undermines happiness. I really get that. It
Yeah.
makes you stop and think, what's the real point of wealth?
It's a critical point. Why do we earn money? Ultimately, it's to live a better life, right? And at the heart of that better life is often the freedom of time. Just imagine picking up your kids from school and not feeling that frantic rush to the next thing.
Yeah, or being able to just decide, hey, let's take a long weekend trip without massive financial stress.
Yeah.
Having that, what did you call it? That breathing room.
Exactly, you. That wonderful sense of having room to spare. Time to actually play with your kids, talk with them properly, or maybe spend more unhurried time with aging parents. That kind of connection, that focus on relationships. Our sources suggest that's way more valuable than, say, another luxury car.
And it's not just family time, is it? It's freedom of choice, generally.
Right. Money can reduce the time you have to spend doing things you don't like. It lets you dedicate time to what truly matters to you. Maybe that means shifting to more flexible work. Maybe it means pursuing education. Maybe it just means having time to think, to plan, to be.
And it brings that worry-free time, too. Financial stability takes a layer of anxiety off. If something unexpected happens, an illness, a job loss, having that buffer means you can focus on tackling the problem, not just panicking about the finances.
So yeah, money itself doesn't magically create happiness, but it's a powerful tool to help you pursue it. If you just chase expensive things, you can get stuck on a treadmill. But if you use money strategically to secure and protect your time, your most valuable, non-renewable resource, Wally. That's where real life satisfaction can grow. It's about owning your life, owning your time.
Okay, so if the goal is ultimately about buying time, why is stock investment often highlighted as particularly useful for this, especially compared to other methods? That's a key question for people new to investing.
It's a great question, and there are several good reasons looking at our sources. First off, liquidity and accessibility. Stocks are generally pretty easy to buy and sell. You can convert them to cash relatively quickly if you need to. That's huge if something unexpected comes up, or if you want to free up funds to, well, buy that time for something important.
And you don't need a fortune to start, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Accessibility is key. You can start small, unlike, say, buying an investment property, anyone can dip their toe in. Then there's the power of compounding. This is like the cornerstone Peter Lynch often talked about.
The snowball effect.
Right. When your earnings start generating their own earnings, it can lead to exponential growth over the long haul. That really accelerates your journey towards financial freedom, towards having more control over your time.
And passive income, dividends.
That's another big one. Dividends are payments you get just for holding the stock without doing extra work. It's like earning rent, but often with less hassle. That steady income stream is incredibly valuable for buying time, whether it's in retirement or just allowing you to work less now.
Plus, stocks can help fight inflation, right? Protect your future time buying power.
Generally, yes. Over the long term, stocks tend to outperform inflation because companies can often raise prices and grow earnings. This helps protect the purchasing power of your savings, ensuring your future time is still valuable.
And finally, what about the time needed to manage investments?
That's a key advantage for buying time. Compared to managing rental properties, which can be very hands-on, or running your own business, which is obviously massively time-consuming, stock investing can be relatively time-efficient, especially if you use things like ETFs or index funds. Once you set up a diversified portfolio, the ongoing management can be pretty minimal.
Okay, so while other things like real estate or starting a business have upsides, they often demand more capital up front, are harder to access quickly, and just take up way more of your time. Stocks offer a potentially more time-efficient way to grow wealth and ultimately buy that freedom.
Exactly. Which leads us neatly into this really interesting dilemma our listener brought up, that classic conflict. Enjoy life now or save diligently for later.
Yeah, they mentioned an acquaintance who seems to be doing both. Big house, travel with kids when young, then planning to sell the house later, downsize, and invest the difference for old age.
It sounds appealing on the surface, doesn't it? Enjoying it all.
It does. And our listeners wrestling with this, like, what's the point of scrimping and saving when you're young, missing out on precious time with kids' time? You can't get back just to have money when you're old and maybe can't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
It's a real emotional struggle.
It's a very, very common tension, and that enjoy now, plan later approach, like the friend strategy. It definitely has an allure. You get that immediate gratification, create those family memories, maybe benefit from rising house prices.
Sounds great, but there have to be risks.
Oh, absolutely. Big ones. First, the real estate market isn't guaranteed. What if prices stagnate or even fall when you
Yeah.
plan to sell? Your whole retirement plan could be jeopardized.
Totally.
And then there are the high costs now. That big house means a big mortgage, high property taxes, constant maintenance that drains your income during your younger years, leaving less room for other investments that could be compounding.
And houses aren't liquid. You can't just tap into that equity easily if you hit a rough patch.
Exactly. That lack of liquidity is a major risk, an unexpected job loss, a medical emergency. If all your wealth is tied up in the house, you could face a serious crisis. It could actually undermine the very present enjoyment you were aiming for.
Okay, so that approach has definite downsides. What about the other way? The save hard now, live comfortably later strategy. The listener's current leaning.
Well, the big advantage there is maximizing compounding. Starting early gives your investments the longest possible time to grow, potentially exponentially. Plus, you build liquid assets, stocks, bonds, savings, which gives you much more flexibility and control if unexpected things happen. More options later in life.
Makes sense. But the downside is that feeling of sacrificing the present, missing out on those experiences with young kids.
That's the heart of the conflict, isn't it? That time is precious and doesn't come back. And there's also maybe a flawed assumption that you won't need much money when you're old. Healthcare costs, long-term care, those can be huge, unexpected expenses later on.
So it's not really about choosing one extreme or the other. It's about finding a balance, a strategic compromise.
Precisely. It's finding your optimal balance point between present happiness and future security. And that point is different for everyone. It depends on your values, your income, how comfortable you are with risk, your family situation. It's deeply personal.
Okay, so how do we find that balance? Since it's not one size fits all, are there practical ways to approach this?
Yeah, absolutely. First step, really define what present happiness means to you. What specific experiences truly matter? Is it fancy vacations every year? Or is it more about consistent quality time, maybe simpler local adventures, feeling less stressed day to day?
So get specific about what you value now.
Exactly. Estimate the rough costs of those core experiences. This helps you spend intentionally, not just reactively, and avoids that feeling of just like endless deprivation if you're saving hard.
And then define future security too.
Right. What does your ideal post-retirement life look like? Try to estimate those living expenses, how big an emergency fund feels right for you. Set concrete goals, maybe buying a home eventually, funding kids' education. Having targets makes planning more real.
Okay, got it. Define both sides. Then what? How do we bridge the gap?
This is where practical compromises come in.
Yeah.
One idea from our sources is something like an N% rule. Decide, for example, okay, we will invest 20% of our income automatically, and maybe 30% goes to fixed costs like housing. The remaining 50% is for variable spending. And a good chunk of that variable spending can be consciously allocated to those meaningful present experiences.
I like that. It makes saving automatic and non-negotiable, but then frees you up to spend the rest on living life now without guilt.
Exactly. It takes the constant decision-making stress out of it. And tied to that is spending wisely on those experiences. Maybe you prioritize that big family trip you value, but cut back on frequent expensive dinners out if those aren't as important. Choose the camping trip over the luxury resort if the shared experience is the real goal. It's about aligning spending with values.
Setting up automatic transfers to investment accounts seems key too. Pay yourself first. Make saving the default.
Absolutely. Automate it. Make it happen without thinking. And of course, basic investment principles apply. Diversify your assets, stocks, bonds, savings to manage risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And be prepared to adjust, right? Life changes.
Definitely. Review your plan regularly, maybe once a year. Your income might change, your goals might shift, the economy changes. Flexibility is crucial. The ultimate goal isn't perfection, it's finding your workable balance point so you can enjoy today while feeling secure about tomorrow. Your values should be your guide.
It really brings us back to acknowledging those different starting points we talked about earlier, doesn't it? The ability to strike this balance feels very different depending on whether you had, say, parental help or a strong pension.
It absolutely does. That listener's observation about their acquaintance potentially having unseen advantages, maybe help with a down payment, maybe a substantial pension fund, cushioning their future, that's a really important piece of the puzzle. Life isn't always fair.
Those environmental factors, family money, social safety nets, initial assets, they create fundamentally different starting lines. Someone's lifestyle isn't just about their choices. It's often supported by factors they didn't entirely create.
Right. And recognizing that isn't about making excuses, it's about being realistic. It actually makes your own efforts even more vital. Building that intelligent, efficient plan tailored to your specific circumstances becomes paramount.
So focus on what you can control, find your unique balance, and try not to get discouraged by comparing yourself to others who might be playing a different game entirely.
Exactly. And in that context, Peter Lynch's philosophy, this whole idea we've explored today about investing smartly, working hard to buy time, it really shines, doesn't it? It's about building genuine financial freedom and reclaiming your time based on your efforts and your plan.
That's a really powerful word from Peter Lynch today, and I think you're right. This principle connects so deeply not just to investing, but to, well, life wisdom, how we choose to use our resources, including our time. See you next time. This was What Would Peter Lynch Do? Thank you for joining us today. Have a nice day.